What is the most famous adoption study about schizophrenia? When it comes to understanding schizophrenia, one study stands out above the rest. The Danish Adoption Study, conducted by Seymour Ketty, David Rosenthal, and their team in the 1960s and 1970s, is the most recognized adoption study in this field. This research played a vital role in clarifying how genetics and environment contribute to the development of schizophrenia. So, what exactly are adoption studies? In these studies, researchers examine individuals who were adopted at a young age. They compare the rates of mental illness in these individuals to those in their biological and adoptive families. This method helps to separate the influence of genetics from the impact of upbringing. The Danish Adoption Study focused on individuals in Denmark who were adopted shortly after birth. The researchers identified two groups, those who developed schizophrenia and those who did not. They then looked at the rates of schizophrenia in both the biological and adoptive relatives of these adoptees. The findings were striking. The biological relatives of adoptees with schizophrenia had much higher rates of the disorder compared to the adoptive relatives. This was true even though the adoptees were raised in families without any history of mental illness. In contrast, the adoptive relatives showed rates of schizophrenia similar to the general population. This strongly indicated that genetics play a significant role in the risk for schizophrenia, while the family environment has less influence. Earlier research by Leonard Heston in the United States had already shown that children born to mothers with schizophrenia were at an increased risk of developing the disorder, regardless of whether they were raised by their biological mothers or by adoptive families. The Danish Adoption Study built on this by including a larger sample and examining both biological and adoptive families in detail. Later studies, such as the Finnish Adoption Study, found that while genetics are a primary risk factor, a severely dysfunctional family environment could increase the risk for those already genetically vulnerable. However, even in these cases, the risk was not heightened in adoptees without a genetic predisposition, no matter how troubled their adoptive families were. These findings have shaped how researchers and clinicians think about schizophrenia. They support the idea that schizophrenia has a strong genetic basis. While environmental factors may influence the severity of the illness, they are not the main cause. This understanding has guided the search for specific genes related to schizophrenia and influenced approaches to prevention and early intervention. The Danish Adoption Study remains a cornerstone in psychiatric genetics. Its methods and findings continue to inform research and clinical practice, helping to distinguish between the effects of nature and nurture in the development of schizophrenia.